Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 437, and today we're doing battle with Neeko Gnar. And so, as we get into this video, we're playing on our secondary account. I'm so close to finishing off the Soul Fighter quest, and I think that we can do that with the Neeko Epic quest. And so if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I rarely look at the daily quests, so you're going to be right up there in that same space as me, but there's this, 3 of 3 Neeko quest that we're trying to finish off. I just did it playing games. I have no idea how I actually did it, but there's a 21 pointer here at the end that we can use by just playing Neeko in disguise, and that should get us the rest of the way. Looking at the event pass, it looks like we need, I don't know, 38 points, and so between this epic quest and then the just kind of daily grind 'em all style quests, I feel like we should be able to finish this off and collect the pike skin. And so, to speak to the deck itself, this is one that we encountered quite a bit on the ladder. It's something that I always just thought was kind of a meme deck, but it was exceptionally strong against a lot of the decks that I really like to play. And as I was really coming in and preparing for the Worlds qualifier, this was a matchup that I really just did not want to see. It's quite good against Jinx Kennen. It has a lot of early game value-based plays like the Lonely Poro, the Deck Hunter, the Frostcoat Cub, and the Junk Construct. These are all cards that are just kind of 2-for-1ers against the likes of Jinx, but it also has a lot of game in the mid-rangey matchups as well. And so as you take this up to battle against something like Jax Ornn, if you're able to drop a Warden of the Tribes, the game just kind of ends. And so it's very powerful against a lot of the aggro strategies and a lot of the mid-rangey strategies in this format. And so the deck has, two really big concepts and powerful ideas going for it. Has a very heavy value package attached to it, to where the Omen Hawk and the Glacial Saurion, giving the +1/+1s to the units in the deck, will allow our units to just be bigger than our opponents. And so if you want to take down a 3/4 Frostcoat Cub, it's going to take 2 or 3 cards from your opponent to be able to come in and interact with that. But it also has a lot of high-valued units between things like Lonely Poro, the Deck Hunter, and the Junk Construct, just being kind of natural 2-for-1s on their own. It's a deck that, while it's not playing a lot of card draw, it does have a lot of kind of value-based concepts baked into it. The next big thing that it does is it has this gigantic Overwhelm package. As we speak to every deck, you have to kind of come up with a way to beat Norra, right? How do you get through Norra's big wall of units? Or I guess more appropriately these days, if your opponent plays a production surge, how do you attack through that big wall of units? You either have to be able to rally, you have to be able to elusive or overwhelm. And this deck has a pretty good number of elusives and overwhelms to it. Neeko can pick up elusive just through her natural abilities. Gnar can get overwhelm on the flips. The innovative blacksmith can pick up the overwhelm or the scout weapon. And then the Tritail, the Saurion, and the Warden of the Tribes all have overwhelm on their own. And so the deck actually kind of, checks a lot of the boxes that are requirements for me to think a deck is actually manageable and serviceable on the ladder. Has, a nice early game package, has lots of value baked into it, and it has that elusive overwhelm or rally package within. The things that I like to call out with this that are different from a lot of the kind of standard lists that you will see is that this does have a little bit of the bust flavor attached to it. We're going to be playing 1 copy of Fracture. This was one of our highlights that we used from the Worlds qualifier, just being able to blow up an equipment in Aatrox's Vein or blow up an equipment in a Jax Ornn deck can be quite strong, while the 1 damage AoE is exceptionally good against the likes of Jinx Kennen and Samira Fizz. And then we're also playing Inner Beast, which is a reasonably strong combat trick on its own, but picking up the AoE stance is another card that's quite good against Jinx Kennen and Samira Fizz. And then you will find some opportunities to where, say we have Ferocious Fluffs on the board and we need to get a way to close out the game, you can put the Overwhelm stance onto the Fluffs and get some big attacks in that way. And so, good stuff. That's the deck we're battling with today, but before the battles begin, you know what we got to do. We got to go and pay that pay-to-win price. And man, it's been nice coming in on this the secondary account and being able to come in and pay to win on these commons. Like the Omen Hawk is something that we would have paid to win on like literally 3 years ago. And so being able to come back and provide a little bit of service to some of these cards is kind of nostalgic and kind of nice. I really like it. And it's tough too. You saw us come into the World's Open qualifier. The only cards that we hadn't premiumed out were like Kennen, and then we just had to buy the Kennen skins, and then everything was completely done. And so it can be kind of tough to actually find a way to give Riot $1 or $2 every once in a while. And so it's interesting how that plays itself out. But all right, into battles, up against Max Got the Tracks. Reasonable enough start against Heimerdinger Jayce with the Deck Hunter and Frostcoat Cub. Don't need the Harsh Winds or the Tufted Web Spinner. We're not going to be getting into combats here early. The Web Spinner not realistically going to be doing that much, and so hopefully we can find a one-cost play or something to get going in the early game. Hey, there's that premium Omen Hawk. You see what you say? Some people call this game free to play. I say that's nonsense. This game is pay to win. Getting that Omen Hawk all premiumed up got him feeling good. He turned up right when he was needed, right when he was necessary. I appreciate it, my friend. Very kind of you. And so, as we are up against Heimerdinger Jayce, I want to get as much board presence as we can without throwing away our units. And so, we can look to kind of make some trades, but ideally, the way that this game is going to kind of course out is we'll try and be as aggressive as we can here in the early game. We're going to get opponent kind of low, but we can't actually finish off the game because our deck isn't that aggressive, and then we need to have a big board for when we play Warden of the Tribes. And so don't really expect Warden of the Tribes himself to come in and get the kill. You know, he's just not realistically going to survive a Vengeance, but if we get to boost all of the rest of our units, those can kind of come in and close out the game. And so with these, I think we're kind of stuck with the Yordle. These cards all suck. They're all way too expensive. I guess we can take Ambitious Cultist with the idea that we might get an equipment at some point throughout the game, but my expectations for him are pretty low. All right, opponent attempts to quiet us away the Neeko. Say, not today, my friend, not today. That's not Neeko running through. And so let's continue on. Kind of an interesting spot here. I think we want to add in the Tufted Web Spinner. Again, I don't have high expectations for this thing in this match. It's just opponent's not going to have a ton of units on the board. And it's a pretty kind of like low-cost throwdown here in the sense that on the upcoming turns, I want to play a Nura and Froop and then get a little bit of value out of it by adding a unit immediately after. So I don't want to play a Nura and Froop this turn and not get that opportunity. And then, you know, we could potentially just be playing a bigger Frostcoat Cub on a later turn. And so we'll take it just a little bit slower here. So now that opponent adds in Jayce, we actually find the perfect spot to be dropping our Ambitious Cultist, having just enough stats to fight through what Jayce is able to put forth. It's very nice, very, very kind to see it happen that way. But as this kind of plays out now, I'm a little afraid of a card like Shock Blast. I don't want to add a Nura and Froop and then just have our units get blown up. And so we'll go with the Saurion. It should be a big kind of representation of damage, and now, you know, we're getting built up nicely to this Warden of the Tribes. If we can flood the board with some of these units, we should get a shot to get a big old mountain of stats.
If it hops or slithers,
So we'll add a Nura and Froop. He can aftershock this, but I don't expect he's going to have too many other plays that'll take her off of the board. And I think we should be able to just chunk down a bunch of units this turn. And so I think we're going to be able to get things going with Neeko here. We need to kind of see. We've played Bird, Cultist, and Reptile, so Dog will be safe, Cat will be safe, and then we'll need one other thing for Neeko to be successful. So here's Cat.
a new species.
Kind of interested in the elites. The Vanguard Sergeant does a lot of what we need. It actually lets us have a pretty interesting combat next turn in the sense of the 4 Demacia is going to be exceptionally good.
Discipline and steel. Let's get started.
Interesting, he takes down the Deck Hunter. I was expecting the Anura and Fruit to go away. But let's see what we can do. Again, this is opportunity for a big turn here. We have 8 mana, so we can add the Frostcoat Cub. We can add in the Neeko. We can follow up with the 4 Demacia. Ideally, we'll get a pretty big attack this turn. And what a bummer that was. I didn't even anticipate the spell coming in on the Jhin Norra and Fruit. We were really kind of counting on getting this Neeko on the board. I mean, maybe we should have dropped her before the Frostcoat Cub and been a little bit safer that way, but Max definitely boomed us right there. Definitely got us boomed.
What you got? We're working here. Keep it up.
Alright, so he gets the Donger flip. Fair enough. And what a sad day without Neeko on the board. We got to play her in disguise just to get that quest popping off, right? that's the only way we can do it.
A sheath for a soul.
All right, I'm gonna flash freeze this Floor Be Gone. It's too easy for us to die to a shock blast with Jayce already on board, and so taking the damage away from the Floor Be Gone gives us a pretty good angle for trying to close this out. Now we need to just get more dudes down. I guess we can add in a tufted web spinner. Doesn't really matter who it hits. We'll add in Neeko in disguise, and then we'll come in with the Warden of the Tribes next turn. I don't know if he plays cards like the Ruination. You know, it just kind of is what it is. If he has it, he has it. But I think we have the potential to do something this next turn. We're not going to get a kill, but we can remove a large portion of his board. Where are you at? Bird? Sure. Should be obvious that that's Neeko at this point, but I don't have enough Neeko APM to where I know exactly what we want as we play it, so it's not just super obvious that we're taking something crazy. Maybe we should have just taken Deck Hunter here. It's a one that we've already played and shouldn't be super obvious that it's about to just be an obnoxious Neeko coming on board. Alright, yeah, this one's just going to be done. That's a very tough match. Not one that we're really looking to do battle against, and then that's kind of one of the main reasons I didn't seriously consider this deck for the Worlds qualifier. Is our strategy was to leave Heimerdinger Jayce up, and I was ultimately worried about getting into a lot of matchups to where you have to play against both Nasus and Heimerdinger Jayce. And as you can imagine, if your game plan is to just add a bunch of 8-cost units to the board and them having things that remove it with 6 mana, is kind of a bummer.
Let's get to work.
All right, the next battle is upon us, and so this is kind of one of these spots I've talked about a bit, in the sense that I like playing both Omen Hawks at the same time, and so what can happen and what would have happened here is if, say, we played that Omen Hawk on the first turn, we immediately drew a unit in the Deck Hunter, and the Deck Hunter would have been a 2/4, and so the way that our units are going to kind of stat out for the rest of the game is we're going to have a +1/+1, and then 2+2/+2s, and then 1+1/+1 at the end, so like a 1, 2 2s, and a 1. I'd really prefer that to just be 3+2/+2s, and so if we get both of our Omen Hawks on board right at the same time, it just gives us a chance to maximize the strength on those units. Now we're looking pretty decent here. We have the 4 subtypes on board: Spider, Cat, Bird, Poro. Make this Tri-Tail pretty fantastic. He had +2/+2 on his own. Nothing wrong with putting 17 stats on the board with 4 mana. Incoming Concussive Palm, huh? Same deal. Same deal.
Embrace your fate as I have mine.
Not bad, though. Not bad. Surprised to see he blocks the Deck Hunter instead of the Precious Pet. The Precious Pet does more damage, and it's a little bit more challenging to block. So I feel like we got a bit of a win in that space. Now Sett comes on board. They're not entirely worried about Sett, right? He can hook one of these small units, but he can't take down our big boy. Oh man, he can get into combat with our big boy though. There's gonna be some removal spells coming in, huh? Seems like it. So I don't think there's a reason to add any of these units to the board. We've already attacked. We already have Spider and we already have Poro, so we're not getting anything in that sense. And then it lets us just get this open attack. I wouldn't be surprised if our Tri-Tail gets hit with like a concussive palm now. That's a bit unfortunate to have, such a high valued play. But if this is ever a thing like double Mystic Shot, we do get the opportunity to fight through it with Three Sisters. And it's still, pretty realistically strong here. It does lose out on some of those stats, but it's still coming on board pretty big in this space. And so I'm gonna add in the Yeti. Like I don't like the Yeti in the sense of it dies, I don't really want to draw the other one, but I do want to get this other subtype on board for our Tri-Tail. Get him up in that range to where he's a bit stronger than what Sett can deal with. And a bar. So we'll start replacing these 1/1s. What up, Warden of the Tribes? Not a bad day for you to make an appearance. You look primed and ready for a big attack on this board. It's unfortunately probably not gonna lethal, but pretty strong stuff. Do we want to add in the web spinner? We've already had a Spider on board. Probably want this Pouty Poro. Let's go ahead and add him in. He's gonna have that overwhelm that we needed. Right, he can take down the Saurion. We wouldn't really had a way to stop it, but we do at least pick up another overwhelm in the Pouty. Give everybody the old +6/+6. So what up, stats? Welcome to the party, mountain of stats. That's pretty good. You have 3 overwhelms in the mix, 1 fearsome. Big damage about to happen. Face breaker.
Hit him with the old one too.
Not a bad time to have your second copy of Sett. Not a bad time.
Let's take this outside.
How about a duet?
Says that's too much. Said your stats are too big, bust. GG. Right. So yeah, we're probably just never gonna finish off this quest, right? We had a chance in the previous game to play Neeko, but man, she's not coming on board here today. One of the things I thought was interesting looking through there was on the quests that I just kind of incidentally finished. There was one that's deal 8 damage with a champion, which is extremely easy to do with Ornn. And then there was another one that was attack with 2 champions in the same turn, which you just kind of incidentally pull off. But I was surprised to see which of those actually came through. Alright, up against Nasus Veigar. This is not a good matchup. This is a little bit worse than the Heimerdinger Jayce one. We just don't have an answer to the Nasus. We got to find those 3 sisters and the buried in ices, but I don't want to hold on to 3 sisters because it may not be relevant until turn 6 or turn 7 of the game. And so I took a mulligan for a more value-oriented approach, and this looks fine, right? We have the Omen Hawk, the Junk Construct. That was a good start. And then we mulliganed into the Jhin Norra and the Tri-Tail. So getting dudes on board. So I'm going to add in the Omen Hawk. I'm not going to block the Forsaken Bakai, as we have this hand to where we want to get the Tri-Tail on board. I don't feel particularly comfortable just throwing these units away. We want to get him to have at least a little bit of stats. I'm fine with sending in Junk Construct. This is going to replace itself and, you know, potentially hit another keyworded kind of unit, but the Omen Hawk, I want to keep it home.
Nobody's pulling your tail while I'm around.
Survive, please. Survive, please. Damn. We tried, right? That was about to really pop off with this Tri-Tail if the Jhin Norra and Fruit survived. You're gonna have 2 additional keywords and then a potential for more with the cat, but it's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Mana Soul student, not quite capable of hitting what we need. But let's get, man, it sucks to add the Tri-Tail with only 3 health because it dies to Hate Spike. But I think at this point, if opponent really wants to Hate Spike, that means that they can't play the landmark this turn. So gives us a little bit of time in terms of that thing running through the board.
Just let them sleep.
Sure.
Be back tomorrow.
All right, a couple more keywords to get on board.
Rise and shine, sleepy dupes. Friends do make chores easier.
Got our Yeti. We're gonna get our Poro. Can't block an elusive sad day there. But we can get this big cat on board next turn.
Quick work.
Yeah, it's got that 6 health. It says I'm big enough. I'm big enough to fight the grumpy rock bear. Yeah. Alright, well. We're certainly playing fun cards today. Alright. I mean, I guess we can't complain too much. He hasn't dropped Nasus on us or anything yet, but see what we can do. There's the vaults, and so we could actually try and go after the rock bear here, but like we need something to just go right, and we have this Warden of the Tribes that's going to be a 13/13, and so I don't know how big Nasus is going to be. This is one of the things I don't really enjoy about Nasus is there's no way to see how many slays that he's actually pulled off, but we have a lot of answers to him in terms of just the giant units and the 3 sisters, so might be okay.
Friends do make
15/15.
chores easier.
I guess he's a little bit bigger than we were going to be capable of dealing with. So let's just take a different angle on this. I'm gonna go Jhin Norra and Fruit. I'm gonna play Neeko. We're finally gonna we're gonna start activating that quest, and then we're gonna look to Entomb or Flash Freeze Nasus next turn. It's probably a little bit safer to just go with the Flash Freeze, so that we can
A new species!
not get hit by Rite of Negation. We also, if we just take a 3 bank into next turn, we have the mana to both.
Gonna be a long night.
Should just hard casting Decimatas here. Impressive. Why would he? That's so terrible adding Decinata, right? Does this deck actually play 9-cost cards? I don't think it does.
Stay hidden.
He can get the AoE off. We'll have a bunch of 2 health units, but I think his vaults is inactive, right? The thing that you really want to be happening here is your vaults eats your Nasus, and then Nasus turns into the Rekindler and resummons Nasus. Like, the only 9 is like, sure. The only 9 is what's his name? Not Captain Farron, but the big expensive. Yeah, see, his thing didn't activate. The take half your health guy, whatever the fuck he's called. we got there eventually. We got there eventually. He attacked in the wrong order as well. Nasus should be on the right. And so this would just take us to 1. I worry that we'll get popped by some kind of spell here in the middle, so we probably need to put a blocker on Desinata. We'll just throw our smallest unit in front of her. Now we don't have to worry about, you know, I don't want to just Vengeance the Nasus, or kill the Nasus, or Fresh Freeze the Nasus, and he plays a Vengeance, and just takes it all away. Now, everybody's unfortunately smaller than Nasus. not going to be getting kills here.
Aren't you a weird one?
We got to kind of keep going for it. Maybe he just doesn't have anything, right? He's got a handful of Quietuses and Calling Strikes and the like. Can't actually target any of our units. Like, I don't know. Even realistically, if we hit with our 2 large... Like, the Warden of the Tribes and something else, we're probably still short of damage. Gonna deal 1 to everything. We have these 2 Overwhelm units, so this is kind of like dealing 3 damage to the opponent instead of just 1. And we'll get that sweet, sweet attack in. Right, Vivification's killing off his Nasus. Is just going to play a different Nasus. Rekindler. Okay.
Then kindle anew.
Interesting. Well, I think the 2 takeaways that we can have from that is we'll say the opponent had a whole host of interesting plays, and even amongst those interesting plays, we were not able to overcome the strength of Nasus, and so interesting choices that came along the way there. One may ask the question, why wouldn't you just Rite of Negation away the Rock Bear and then play the Rekindler and have 2 Nasus on the board? One might ask that question. One might ask the question why you play Desinata when you don't have 9s in your deck and the Darkness only kills a 1/1. So, a lot of interesting questions to ask yourself about what happened in that game, but as much as they're being asked, the opponent was still able to achieve victory. And we'll move on to the next one. Ready to get this Neeko on board, though. What it's all about right here. Next turn. 2 turns from now. maybe in this game. All right, anybody interesting in here? I like this Wounded White Flame, given that we already have a we already have an Inner Beast in hand. So let's take it. It should find some good combats up against Jhin Norra. And we'll get to just kind of save our mana to play around the Inner Beast here just a little bit. So let's add in Neeko. I think we probably just want to go Junk Construct here. The problem with Junk Construct is it's pretty apparent that this is Neeko whenever we attack with it, since you know your opponent would probably just instantly trade here. But I think that's okay. We still get to continue to play on curve, and then I'm going to save the Inner Beast for when this White Flame comes on board. So opponent played an Ambush. This should just be Avenging Vastaya, right? He's not playing Nidalee, so don't have to worry about it in that sense. And cool. It's hitting 3/4s right out the gate. Not bad. Not bad. Alright, I think we have to White Flame. We can try and churn out a bunch of units with the Anura and Froops, but I don't feel like those are particularly good right here. But get our big dragon into combat. See if he survives. I mean, Group Shot doesn't get a kill here. He kind of needs 2 cards to stop the dragon. I think it's probably going to survive the round. You can even target it again with the stance swap. Who knew? Who knew that we were playing the Pantheon deck here today? Just dropping all the hits directly onto the White Flame. Man, that feels fair. We get a Boom Baboon after opponent got a Ruined Dragon Guard. I don't know how people sit around and play Norra mirrors. That sounds that sounds ultra frustrating to me. And I'm leaning towards just making a big old Wounded White Flame with this turn. Like, we have some time to just fuck around, right? We're gonna just try and put a bunch of stats on the board, and then when we get to turn 8, we'll pop off with everybody. And so let's try and just do some work with this Wounded White Flame. Get some trades, keep the opposing board at a minimum. Make him invest a bunch of stuff into this, and then we're just gonna like flip a switch and change game plans really fast, where we just have a super wide board. And so like this is one of the kind of interesting things we were able to do with that Jinx Kennen deck we were playing with the Scrap Traptions, is to where you're typically playing a really wide game plan, and that's what your opponent's trying to game plan against. And then you occasionally get to just go, oops, here's a giant dude. Man, his hits have been fucking good compared to ours. Really surprised he didn't block to
Croakers and crawlers, I study them all.
get a potential
first.
takedown on the White Flame.
Aren't you a weird one?
Ionia misconstrues
Broadmain
noble
makes sense.
intentions.
So how much of this are we actually going to combat with? Like, we can get the Sarion on board, but it's just going to trade with the Glory Seeker. I think for our first one, like the way I suspect this attack's going to go is he's going to hook a Nura and Fruit with the Glory Seeker, and then after that, we just need a good unit on board. But if we play like a Sarion, the Sarion is just going to become the hook for the Glory Seeker, then we don't have any blocks. And so I think we want to add the Blacksmith and try and get it up to 4 attack, so that it can at least take down some of these other units to the left. Overwhelm is perfect.
For glory, face me.
Yeah, I worry so much about this Kelp Maidens. We really need to get to turn 8 and be able to drop this Warden to the tribes. And if he hits the Warden with plus cost... Can you even plus cost a unit anymore? I know they changed pranks here recently. I think you can just give it like -1 attack and can't block or some weird stuff.
Remember me. If it hops or slithers, it's my kind of critter.
Nope. That answers the question, right? You got the +1 cost on the Sarion there.
A new species.
Well, that was a bit of a win having it hit right there. Trying to see what our Neeko's at. She's probably not going to be relevant this game, but might as well take a peek.
Aren't you a weird one?
So, okay, this works. So the thing I kind of want to see is I want to add the Sarion, but I also want to have 2 mana for the Fishawhack if we're going to be dropping Warden of the Tribes and then trying to open attack a couple of turns from now. The Fishawhack lets us get there. So I'm okay with that. We can add the Web Spinner this turn. I suspect we're going to lose like at least 1 unit. That 1 unit's probably going to be the Sarion, but if we have 5 units going into the next turn and then we get to... just play the Warden with the full board, that does a lot of the work that we need. So I'm going to shrink the Portal Scholar. He's not going to want to block the Web Spinner with Lord Broadmain, and knowing that we're a deck that typically plays Buried in Ice, I don't think he's going to want to block with this Avenging Vastaya either. And so I think unless he plays some more cards, we should be getting 2 good attacks on the turn, just on the basis of that. Now, the other thing here is I kind of want to just put the Fishawhack on the Tufted Web Spinner. Like, that now represents the Web Spinner being able to kill a Lord Broadmain. And if he doesn't start playing removal spells, we can just pass the turn, right?
We are all seeking an end to
Kind of
war,
preemptively
friends.
Broadmain. Okay. Let's just keep everybody healthy. We'll go into the next turn and add the Warden of the Tribes. He needs to do some stuff like right now, right? Try and kill off some of these units before the Warden comes in. Not doing it. He says, here comes the combat step. Wow. So what's going to happen? Are we going to just get hit with Riptide Rex this turn? Riptide Rex isn't going to kill us. We have way too much, we're going to have way too much stats on board. So we'll block the Broadmane. I don't want to be in a spot to where we're going to just die to, like, pie tosses. Like, that could potentially be a thing, but I think this is safe. And now, I kind of want to I kind of want to get Omen Hawk on board, but I feel like that's just a little bit too dangerous. Giving him a chance to prank our Warden and have him get a bonus cost is just going to end the game. Can't let him start pinging off all of our little units. This is just like 100% a Riptide Rex. Something coming in though. How's he gonna ruin our day? You know, when they don't instantly concede, you're in for you're in for something. You're in for something. Alright. Pie tosses abound. Wonder if he can kill us with Jhin. It takes a lot of skills for a Jhin kill here. But I mean, he can definitely kill the Warden of the Tribes at will. Alright, Overwhelm Bro has been removed. Sad day for him. We also have the Ferocious Fluffs in hand. I think we're going to need to try and get it on board as well. Like, there's not much reason to be fast next turn, except for trying to get in front of like these slower removal spells, right? If he gets to chain a couple of removals onto our units. So I think we can add it, right? It's not like opponent can add more units to the board. He's only got 6. And so I think the fluffs are pretty safe. And then even like if he kills a unit and we get to add Flame Chompers in, we can Flame Chompers away his highest health unit and maybe punch in a little bit more Overwhelm. So, you know, there might be something there. Like, the scary thing to me about adding these smaller health units is it kind of opens up the space to where Riptide Rex can deal damage, right? Alright, let's fluff him, and then we'll combat him. See if we've unlocked victory. But Arachnobat sitting in the top 100. I can't remember. I feel like we played him in an open here recently, and I can't remember if we played in the most recent one yesterday, where I think we probably played in the one that I had to miss. Well, I didn't miss it. It was just a complete shit show with the power outages and the electric problems.
I love field work.
All right, let's see what we can do. I don't think this is going to be enough. We're going to hit for like 6 off the Deck Hunter. We're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 impact. That's only going to be 10. And then he's gonna kill off this Saurion in the middle of combat here. But, you know, if we get to full clear his board, we might still have a chance. But the scary thing is this Kelp Maidens now, right? Being able to hit for 2 points of elusive damage. his Gnar is not going to die either. I wonder if the angle he could have taken here was to actually deal the damage and look to remove the Deck Hunter, and then next turn attack with Gnar and Broadmane kill the Saurion in the middle of combat so he gets the full damage, right? He's losing out on his Overwhelm unit here. But I would imagine that he kind of planned on losing his Broadmanes and couldn't pull that kind of thing off. Alright, so we're coming in for 10. Jhin's kind of close to flipping. There is some potential for... If Jhin flips and attacks, he just gets to deal the 4 to your Nugget. So that could be a potential problem point as well. Let's see if we find an elusive.
A new species.
Did not. Just take the big one. We maybe should have just taken the impact, but I feel like we're going to have enough units on the board. If we get around to our next attack, I think we'll just be okay. But, yeah, man, and we hit Neeko. She's not elusive yet. She has to attack to get the flip, so we can't just play the elusive Neeko to block the Kelp Maidens. Ah, nice. Nice. Alright. GG. Condense onto Kelp Maidens. Who saw that one coming through? Who saw that one coming through? So one of the things I was kind of interested in with that game is we could have gotten in like a little bit more blocking. We preserved all of our units there. I'm curious if we shouldn't have just tried to prevent a little bit more damage. I knew it was dangerous falling so low, but I'm curious if we couldn't have just prevented a little bit more. I really didn't suspect that we were going to be in a winning position if we didn't win on that attack on the last turn. But we drew a lot of nonsense right at the end to to make me feel a little bit differently about it. And so, very interesting space. All right, up against Shen Jarvan. Another place that leaves me a little bit worried. It's at least they can't like Fiora OTK us, right? This would be a nightmare matchup against a Fiora Shen, her being able to come in and just ace all of our units, but a little bit different here. So one of the things will be interesting is if we can find a way to make good use out of this Inner Beast. The deck plays a lot of those 3/1s that pick up barriers off of their friends, and so if you find a spot to clear them out when the opponent doesn't really see it coming, you got a good shot for greatness. Now, I'm fine to play this kind of slow. You know, we don't have really good combats. If he's going to add a dude, it's probably just bigger than everything that we have. And so I think we're okay to just go kind of a little bit slower here. And look to just build up to these Wardens and probably pop off with Buried in Ice. And so, as far as these units go, I'm kind of leaning towards this Fabled Poro. I think the Empyrean is just going to be too slow, and then the Tasty Faithful dies to everything. And so the Fabled Poro actually has a couple of opportunities to get some decent blocks in. So I wanna pick up his stats in this space. All-Seeing Oracle. Well, guess we're not casting Buried in Ice this game. It has been decided. Buried in Ice will not be cast. Interesting attack. Like, he knows that we have Inner Beast because he's seen both of the spells in our hand. And so he hasn't supported anything yet, so we can't play the 4 mana one. But I guess, like, Prismatic Barrier is still in the format, right? I think we just wait until we start chaining Wardens. Just, my concern is, like, without playing the Inner Beast, as we roll into this turn, we're just not going to have a way to spend all of our mana. Excuse me, very lucky draw picking up the Innovative Blacksmith. Fix him 5,000. I worry about taking the Scout one. Like, you can Scout with the Warden of the Tribes, but it seems like a dangerous proposition there. And I'd love to just see a pass. Okay. Right Steel shuts us down for the turn. That's okay. We're waiting to just build into the Wardens. Like he wanted the single combat there and decided against it.
The eye of twilight sees all.
There's Shen. I don't think we're too worried about this combat. I'm going to add in the big Frostcoat Cub. Like, the downside to adding in the Cub is, you know, we don't really have anything to do next turn. We're just going to have 7 mana next turn, so we can't play our Wardens. How much does this spell cost? Just 1? No. I was like, well, if we can get like 4 mana out of Buried in Ice, I don't hate it. But, alright. We'll add in the big one. It's like we're pretty likely to pick up a spell we could play next turn, right? In the sense that, you know, the Warden of the Tribes are already kind of spent. Would we like to pick up a Yeti? Like, I think all of the Yeti draws are actually good. Right? If we draw one next turn, we can just add it to the board. If we draw it, like, the third draw, like 3 turns from now, we get to play it and Warden of the Tribes in the same turn. It doesn't seem terrible, but it doesn't have Overwhelm. Okay, let's just take 3. There's going to be a riposte or something coming in. I think that's okay. Interesting. The single combat. Oh no. Oops. Oops. I had in my head that we were on this next turn to where we were going to get to spend all of the mana, and that was not the case. That was not the case. Little whoopsies. It's okay though. Don't get too invested in that. Nice draw with the floofs. Gives us a big unit. Now, hopefully, our big boys will be enough to carry here.
We fight till we're ragged, then we fight again! Words make a ruler, but actions make history.
Kind of annoying. I think we're still okay, though. It's like he needs the boat to really do nasty stuff, to give the double attack to all of his challenger units. So, curious to see how that plays out.
So I go.
That's just barely lethal. It's like, I guess the Yeti is a decent draw at this point. We have a Glacial Saurion for a couple of turns from now to also pick up a unit. But, I mean, this is a kill down here. The Shen is pretty close to flipping though, and so if he, let's just drop the big one. It's pretty tough to lethal us out of this spot, but I can definitely see it if he's getting plays down onto his Shen flip. Alright, big stats on board though. Is this Jarvan into the Warden of the Tribes? Interesting. I mean, he's gonna have barrier, I understand that. Does the Shen give him enough bonus?
With me! They are under my protection.
Alright. Shen did Shen things.
To the flag!
Alright, big stats, big wardens, right? Is that gonna be enough? we got the big boys on board now. Doesn't feel great. He's pretty able to get wider than us at this point. He's going to Cataclysm into the Warden just to put damage on it, but the Overwhelm is what gets to come through next round. That's the scary thing, right? This is currently going to be like a 10 attack Jarvan coming into the Warden.
For the king! No quarter!
Alright, let's see what our team can do. The other kind of like crappy thing here is you can potentially just like take this 14 from the Omen Hawk and then on his like play the barrier lifesteal card. And, hey, still enough. Still enough. GG, my Warden of the Tribe friends. So alright, not a bad set of games. We can pull this deck up, talk about it a little bit more. We're getting right up to that hour mark, and so I don't want to get another one in. And, you know, things here were pretty reasonable. This is a deck, we talk about, you know, decks being polarized or not. So if you look at a deck like Aatrox Vein, that's a deck that's just good against everything. It doesn't have any really spectacular matchups, but it doesn't have any really bad ones either. And Neeko Norra is the kind of deck that that's going to be a very polarized style deck, as to where it has a lot of kind of early game presence to it. We're just throwing down a lot of bad units to activate things like the Bonehide Tritail. You know, we're just playing the Poros and the Duck Hunters and the like in the early game, so you have a lot of good blocks. And then you're good against a lot of the mid-rangey strategies, since your build up to Warden of the Tribes is typically not interacted with that much, and your Buried in Ices can really pop off. And so, like, that space, you know, your matchups are very good. You're going to be in that 60% plus win rate kind of space. But as you could see, like, as we played against the more control-heavy decks, right, the Shadow Isles-based removal decks of the format, we really struggle against that kind of thing when we can't build up that 4 and 5 and 6 unit board, so the Warden of the Tribes aren't giving a ton of buffs, and then the Warden of the Tribes itself just being susceptible to the likes of Vengeance. And so those are going to be much more favorable for your opponent. And so in terms of just like quality ladder grinding, you know, I think it's fine. I would say that this deck also does quite well in the space of like Diamond and the lead up to Diamond, in the sense that there shouldn't be nearly as many just like control decks, and this is going to be a deck that really like crushes a lot of, you know, kind of more memeier style decks. And so I think you could definitely get some good ladder climbing in with it. Or if you're looking to take it into the best of 3 space, you know, it might have a shot. I mean, again, it is quite good against Jinx Kennen. It's pretty good against things like just kind of like real curve heavy decks like Garen. And so you have some potential to you know, carve out kind of a niche where this deck is good. But the more control heavy the format gets, this deck really lacks the interactivity to to fight through those kind of things, and the card advantage it has isn't the card advantage you want to see against those kind of decks, right? Generating additional Lonely Poros is exceptionally good card advantage against Jinx Kennen. Generating additional Lonely Poros is not good card advantage against Heimerdinger Jayce. You need cards like Reggie in that space that are generating more mana to spend throughout the game. But I think the big thing to say with this deck, though, was how did it fare in terms of finishing off that epic quest? Poorly. It did poorly, right? We played Neeko like once. We played Neeko in disguise maybe like one time, and so we didn't do fuck all in terms of finishing off that quest. Look at this. That was the whole reason we played the deck. How many? Let's check the thing. Let's check the thing. Where are we at? Neeko. Oh, we played her 3 times. I only remember one of those, and so I'll take your word for that, Riot. But did we finish off the event? That was 5 games. I think we need more than 5 games. Getting close. We need 9 more tokens to get there. Nonetheless, we're getting off topic. I had fun with this. I hope you did too. That is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.